walking the serpentine path, following the footsteps of the ancestors, walking the serpentine path, making our way back home. Hey ya, hey, hey ya, ho, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, ho. Hey ya, hey, hey ya, ho. Following the serpentine path. Life. Hello, everyone. Today's episode is going to be another story in our ongoing mini-series all about women's experiences on different forms of birth control, so hormonal contraceptives, the pill, the injection, the hormonal and copper IUDs, etc. And I want to just make a note really quick. In the episode, I talk about this ongoing class series that I've been teaching, the natural birth control series. And when we originally recorded it about a month ago, I thought I was going to be releasing this episode a lot earlier, but life had other plans, and so I had to push it back. So this Sunday, October 19th, is the last class of that group class series. We're going to be talking all about plants for pregnancy prevention. Women can still join if they want to get that education and information when you sign up for the class. You also receive access to our first class that was all about how to transition off of hormonal contraceptives and birth control and IUDs. And then the second class that I taught last week was all about understanding your menstrual cycle and your fertile window and ovulation and when it is the most likely that you'll get pregnant during your monthly cycle. So all of that is going to be available in the show notes. You can join us live on this Sunday, October 19th, or you can just rewatch the classes. I'm keeping the class series at $33 for the entirety of October. And then on November 1st, it will be available for people to buy that class series for self-study for $66. So if you're listening to this at some point way in the future and you really want to learn all about natural methods of pregnancy prevention, it is still available. It's on my website. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this incredible story with dear sister, dear friend, and return guest to the podcast, Becca Loevy. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Serpentine Path podcast. Today's episode is part of an ongoing series, a little mini series that I'm doing all about women's experiences being on hormonal birth controls and IUDs. And today is also a super special episode because I get to welcome back my first return guest onto the show, Becca Loevy. Becca and I did an episode back in, I don't even know when that was, earlier this year, kind of in the springtime. I can link her episode all about reawakening the plant cesters and talking about the incredible magical relationship that we have with our herbal allies and our plant allies. And so it's a gift to welcome her back. And essentially, when I originally birthed the idea for this upcoming group class that I have all around natural birth control and natural pregnancy prevention, I was originally, promoting it on social media and on my Substack, my newsletter, and I had someone reach out and tell me about her own very insane hormonal contraceptive story. And I was like, do you want to come onto the podcast and share? And she said yes. And as soon as she opened that door, I realized that there's so much more to this current call from the collective womb consciousness that's so much bigger than my class. It's really bringing all of these stories forth and for women to be able to share what their experiences have been in being on the receiving end of intervention from the medical industrial complex in regard to their fertility, their menstrual cycle, their innate, medicine of womanhood. And so all these women started, signing up to do interviews for coming onto this mini series and talking about their experiences. And I thought about Becca and I was like, girl, do you want to come on to the show? I know you got a story to tell me. And she very, very graciously agreed. So it is such a joy to have you back. Thank you, Becca. Thank you so much, dear sister. It is amazing to be in circle and in ceremony with you again. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm just really grateful to share my story. And I definitely want to, before I share it, say a huge thank you to you for offering the space, because that's a big part of it. And a huge thank you to another woman, Tamara Wilder, who held space for my story. And actually, her holding space helped the realization really come through, um, that I needed to get my IUD out. And yeah, the relentless like space holding that she held and that you're holding is just so powerful and so important. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so grateful that you had other support systems in place when you were in that process, because I've said time and time again in many other episodes, like, we're not meant to go through this alone. We're not meant to go through life alone, but women especially are not meant to go through experiences in our womb space alone. We're always meant to be doing it in community, and that's been very fractured in our modern life. There's many attacks on the womb that have been happening for thousands of years at this point in time, but I am immensely grateful to technology that allows us to come back into ceremony and into circle in this way, where our womb stories can be shared and can be celebrated and can be witnessed. And yeah, it's just a gift. So if you want to kind of get into how you ended up going on the IUD in the first place, I don't know if you were ever on like the hormonal contraceptives, the pill, the injection, the IUD, any of that, but you know, take us through your story, whatever you want to share.
So I got my IUD in 2020 during COVID, and I got it as kind of like an initiation into my sexuality, which in hindsight, I'm like, not that. But also, like, so much gratitude to myself for really wanting to create a pivot in like, I want to initiate myself into like sacred sexuality in a way that's safe. And I really want to create safety in myself. So I'm going to do this step to create safety. So I really feel myself as like wanting, like having a good intention and wanting a good impact from having the IUD, and um, using it almost as a grounding point too, at that time in my life, partly because of it being COVID, obviously. But yeah, it honestly, it wasn't too bad for like the first 2 years. And then after 2 years, I started having pretty intense fatigue. And I was like, where is this coming from? And waking up with back pain that I just hadn't had before, kind of lower back pain. And truly, 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 like I want to stress, I really didn't know what was going on. And I think my research now, like around IUDs and around how the research declines after 2 years and then it almost goes away after 3 years, specifically with IUDs, it kind of like makes sense now that it didn't cross my mind that it was the IUD because I'd had it for 2 years and it had been fine. And, yeah, my period changed, but like other than that, I felt pretty good in my body. And then pretty much 3 years to the day, I woke up with a UTI, and it was like, oh, I've never had this before. And it was like a dragon, like breathing fire out of my vagina. I was like, I hate this. This is so painful. What is this coming from? And I had, again, like I had just moved. So I had all these other reasons that I was able to make more sense of and kind of logicalize, like, oh, it's my move. It probably just has to do with like a new climate. And I think that probably had something to do with it. But then they just didn't go away and stayed like, started having these consistent UTIs, started getting headaches consistently. And I've done a lot of work specifically with headaches for myself, and the medicine wasn't working. It was harder for it to like tap in like the dandelion and the burdock and the drinking insane amounts of water. And I was like, like something's off. And I think in hindsight, like me moving to a different place, like aggravated the copper IUD can stay in a woman, they say, up to 10 years. And I think had I not moved, I might have not seen some of these symptoms until later. So I'm actually kind of grateful that it was kind of exacerbated by moving to an island from a mountain town. Um, but yeah, it got really bad when I got back to my mountain town and my body had this exhale of like, oh, this is home. This is where I grew up. And instead of the exhale resulting in less pain, it resulted in a huge kidney infection. And that lasted for like 4 days and I was in incredible amounts of pain. And it's crazy like the shame that came in of like, I've done something wrong. Something's terribly wrong and it's me. Like that like for that place to be invaded, like I don't think it fully like connects in women, and I'll just speak for myself. It didn't connect for me that it wasn't me. And that was like my first kind of thought was like, I'm doing something wrong. Something's wrong with me. And that just kind of spiraled me because I just every morning waking up with back pain, every morning waking up with chronic fatigue, headaches daily, migraines where I literally couldn't see. And I was like, okay, my quality of life has gone down really bad. Um, and then in December on Christmas Day, I woke up with the worst pain I've ever had in my whole life. I've never had pain that removes sound. I couldn't hear anything. It was just blinding, muted pain. I've never had that kind of pain before. And I was just on the ground, and my partner was like, "You're not, we need to go to the ER." Like, carried me to the ER. They did all these tests. Nothing was showing up. And I was just like, it's my back. It's my back. It's my back. And they were like, well, it must be a kidney thing, but it's going to take you 3 months to figure out whether it is because our urology department sucks and they don't really like to see people unless they're sure it's a kidney thing. And we don't really see anything wrong with your kidneys. So it was kind of this standstill experience. And they were like, but we're going to do something. And I'm so grateful they did that, like, probably won't show anything, but we're going to do a transvaginal ultrasound just in case. They're like, it's probably not going to show up as anything because that's not what your symptoms are showing. And everything else that they did, all the other tests showed clean, clean, clean. You're fine, you're fine, you're fine. Except for that ultrasound showed a fibroid. And they were like, we're not really that concerned about it. Like, it doesn't look that big, but you do have one. And it was like this one thing that I could like ask a question about and just be like, why is that there? And so I started kind of waking up to like, oh, it's my uterus. What if it's my womb? And, just like kind of like closing my eyes and feeling my womb and feeling kind of like dead space. Like I couldn't access that, what my womb felt like. And I was like, oh, something's wrong. Now I can actually like pinpoint something's wrong. I can feel it intuitively. And of course, I was like, it's got to be the IUD. And so I reached out to Planned Parenthood. And at this time, I had already been like checking my cycles and had been like curious about plants as a form of um, uh, pregnancy prevention, but I just hadn't really made the jump. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to jump, mostly because this has been a terrible experience. And if this is the thing, like, I want to do it. And Planned Parenthood wouldn't see me for a month. And I was like, I can't wait that long. Mostly because I was like, I can't go down again. I've never had that kind of pain before. And so, with my friend's help, and I don't necessarily recommend this, but I do kind of stress that, like, when you're at this point, like, I get it. I removed it myself. It took 4 hours in front of the mirror, and the pain got better. And then a week later, it got a lot worse. And I went back in and I was like, you guys gotta help me. Like, what's going on? And my theory, and the doctors would not support my theories, but they did another ultrasound and the fibroid had moved. And so I was like, oh, I moved it. It was attached to the IUD and I moved it. And I told the doctor, I was like, do you think this has something to do with me removing the IUD? And she was like, well, we definitely don't recommend that you do it yourself, but no, IUDs are always good. Actually, we should just put one in again. And I was like, no, you absolutely will not put one in again. And I can't believe you don't think that this has something to do with the IUD. And she was like, no, it really doesn't. It really doesn't. And I was like, well, how are we going to move forward? I'm in pain. The fibroids moved and it's now blocking my cervix. Your response is to put another IUD in. My response is, I want a different opinion. And so I went back home and went through this like whole trying to figure out like, how do I deal with the medical system? Something's wrong. I turned to plants and I was like, maybe I can just kind of do a parasite cleanse. And again, like that's a nice idea, Becca, but also that was not the way to go. I did a cleanse that put me back down into immense pain, a gallbladder cleanse and a parasite cleanse. And I feel like there's something in the woman realm of like, I'll just detox. And it did not work. It was so painful, and I'm sure it got some stuff out, but like my body was not ready to take on black cohosh and these other parasite cleansing herbs and tinctures where they're going crossing straight through the blood-brain barrier. And I didn't know. I have experience with plants, but I didn't know that that's what was gonna like take it over the edge was the plants. And in hindsight, I'm obviously still so grateful. Um, and then weirdly enough, at that time, my partner and I had been curious about primitive skills, about learning how to weave baskets, learning how to tan hides, and there was a week-long course happening. And I was like, I don't know why, but I need to go. And he was like, I don't know, like you haven't really been well. And he was really nervous because we had tried to do some like small outings with friends that ended up me in a wheelchair sobbing bad back home, like bad. And he was like, I just don't know. And I was like, I need to be there. I don't know why, but I need to be there. So this was February. Things had been going on for like a few months. It's like the end of February. We end up in Arizona camping in like yeah, I was like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I pushing the edge? Like, so all or nothing of me. And I met this woman, and it was just so weird. She taught me how to make fire. And I was making fire, and I looked up and I saw that she had this flyer that said IUD info session. And I was like, what? Like, of all the places, like, I'm learning like primitive skills, and it's like all these like buckskin people. Like, not expecting it. And she had a cane and she was like a little more heavy set and older. And I was like, what does she have to say? Like, I'm so curious. She's amazing. And she's done so, so much for like teaching people how to make clothes and make baskets and make medicine. And she got taken down by this IUD. And she was like, this is also a primitive skill, is remembering how to not use the Western medical system because it's an experiment and it's failing badly. And I was sobbing the whole time she was telling her story. And it was just like a few people in the tent who probably like did not know what was about to happen. But she saw me and we spoke afterwards, and I told her, I was like, I thought it was my womb. I thought it was my womb. And everything that she said, it was like I had that too. I had that too. And hers kind of did something different, but there was enough similarities that I was like, thank you. And I think, I think now that I have talked to you, like, I think I know what to do. And she was like, share your story with me. And I found out that she has had 30,000 women share their stories on her website. And maybe we can link it in the show notes, iudawareness.org. And she found so many through lines that it didn't matter if it was hormonal or copper. Eventually, you end up getting the same side effects, whether it's pelvic inflammatory stuff, whether it's lots of motor function in your body, whether it's mental. She had like anxiety and depression that built. And like, yeah, I felt it. It was so easy for me to cry, like so easy. And that hadn't really happened in my life. And I'm grateful for it, but I also knew that it wasn't what I was used to. It was like on command, tears, 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 tears. And so I got home and I shared my story. And there was something about sharing my story that like brought this revelation that like I needed them to go back in and look because I was still in pain. The IUD was gone. The kidneys were on a standstill, but I wasn't convinced that they were really the problem anyway. I think that was kind of like a me having lower back pain, kind of thinking it was kidneys. And so I went in, they did another transvaginal ultrasound, and they were like, you know what? That fibroid's actually huge. We're gonna probably need to take it out. And I was like, okay, I guess we'll do that. And I don't know if it was the right response, if there was maybe a slower pathway I could have taken, but I will say that the pain kind of pushed me towards the surgery. And so it was April that I ended up going into surgery. This was a year and a half ago. And when they went in and they told me this afterwards, they did not just find a fibroid. My entire uterus was inflamed. They said it looked like red, puffy tissue all around my uterus. And they scraped it clean. And they, I chose a doctor that was a friend of a friend. So I think she did it because she was being nice. I think if she hadn't, I would be in a very deep process right now of trying to eliminate inflammation slowly. I guess I got the like quick way. But yeah, I came out of that surgery and it was it's so hard to explain like a raw uterus versus a puffy one. Like it was clear immediately. It was really painful. I felt like I'd gone through birth and I don't even know what birth feels like, but it was like something had been taken out of me that was a large amount of stuff. And they had me on opioids and fentanyl for like a week. I was bedridden. And then I was fine. And it was just crazy to be fine after being so not fine. And I haven't had a UTI since. My energy came back. The forgiveness in my body came back. Like some of the gluten and lactose and like all these like dietary restrictions that I had started to ease up a little bit. And I was like able to kind of like play with them again in a way that I had been able to play with them after working with ayahuasca. It was very similar, where I was like, oh, my body has forgiveness, my body has resilience, like I can do this. And I haven't had any symptoms since, which is crazy. And crazy that it happened like within a week. Um, but yeah, I still get checked up and I still do what I can because anything can cause inflammation in the uterus. So it's not like I'm just out of the gates and like going to be fine forever now. It's still important for me to like keep an eye on things, and I do, and keep an eye on my bleed, which is now the most normal and regular. And it's so beautiful. Every time I bleed, I'm just like, whoa, like this is magic. I love it. I just love it. Like 3 days, I'm not going to talk to anybody. Like, fuck yeah. Like, and like every time my ovulation shifts into my luteal, like I can feel it. Like there's nuance that I just like didn't know about, and now I have the opportunity to be with, and I couldn't be more grateful because it helps me know where I'm at. Like just on a cellular basic level, it helps me know where I'm at day to day. And yeah, so that's my story. Thanks for listening.
Oh, Becca. For listeners, like I haven't heard this whole story. This is my first time hearing it. I am so fucking sorry. I'm so fucking sorry that that happened to you. And I have my own similar experiences of having gotten pelvic inflammatory disease and clearing it, and all of the work that I've had to do for years, mostly with like hundreds of cups of ayahuasca and like living in the jungle, like very detoxified lifestyle in every capacity. With herbs, also with homeopathic remedies, with so much prayer, with so much lineage cleaning. Like I've spoken at length about my own experiences, and I am just so fucking sorry. And I'm so fucking proud of you for being able to listen to your body and to do what you needed to do and to utilize the resources that you had at your disposal and to learn and to listen to your intuition to tell you to go to Arizona and meet that woman. Yeah, it's insane actually. Like hearing a story like that is it's insane because it's the truth of what is happening. It's the truth of what happened to my body and to apparently 30,000 women at least who have submitted their stories onto this website, which we'll, of course, link. But I think with the copper IUD, there's this weird like mythology around it that it's like the natural way to do it, right? Like I was on the pill for 4.5 years, and when I got off of it, I did the same thing. Like, I'm going to be a responsible sexual adult. I'm going to go and get this IUD put in. And you were speaking a lot to like safety and initiation. And I think it's crazy to me that at this moment in human history, we have brought the idea of like sexual adult mature initiation into a place of such profound boundary violation. Getting that IUD inserted, it is so painful. There was like a story about all of these Inuit women in Denmark who had their IUDs forced into them when they were like some as young as 12 years old, and those women speak to that as like they raped me, they took my virginity, like that's what's happening. It is a profound sexual violation. And so the fact that we have conflated like that form of initiation, like medical initiation, with what I would say is a form of medical rape in many ways, that's just one whole thing in itself. Speaking to just like the back pain that you were feeling, yet like of course it's connected to your womb. I think in the Western world we've separated all parts of the body and we think that they don't work in tandem and in this harmonious symphony of gorgeous biological blueprint, like our bodies work perfectly. And the second that we start inserting foreign metal objects into the most sacred seat of our power, into the place where we create all of our life force energy, it's just putting like this it's just numbness. It's just numbness. Like you were speaking to like not even being able to feel like what is going on in my womb. Like it's just, what were the words that you, dead space. You're like, it's a dead space, because that's what it is. It is like a severing of our life force energy. When it comes to like the UTIs and just vaginal infections, pelvic inflammatory disease, bacterial vaginosis, all of that, there's so much research that talks about how IUDs and hormonal contraceptives mess with our vaginal microbiome, make it significantly more likely that we're going to struggle from chronic infections, which I went through, And then from a German New Medicine perspective, when we're looking at the female body and what female territory is, our female territory is everything internal. It's our body, it's our sexuality, it's our emotions, it's our capacity to reproduce, and then eventually it's our children if we so choose to have children. And so when I see like a foreign invader, this foreign metal object inside of our most sacred territory, of course the body is going to respond intelligently by being like, get this invader the fuck out of my territory. Like, this is mine. What is this agent of the medical industrial complex and the pharmaceutical giants doing inside of my sacred territory? And so while the infections suck, they're intelligent, they are useful, they are like alarm bells going off saying like, get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out, right? The other thing you spoke to, the inflammation. The fact that I didn't know until years after I got my IUD removed that the way that both the copper and hormonal IUD work is that they create a state of chronic inflammation in the womb that makes all forms of life inhospitable. That's insane to me. The fact that my womb was in a state of chronic inflammation for 3.5 years, and that even after the fact for years, I had to go through that process of like, how do I not have an inflamed uterus? And no one told me. I had no guidance, none. Not a single person, not a single medical provider gave me any insight into any of that. I figured that out by myself. And then, what you were speaking to about the herbs and like, I'm just going to detox, like this obsession in the wellness and spiritual community, detox, 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 get it out, get it out, get it out. Which for women, what I would often say the remedy for how shitty we usually feel is not detox, get skinnier, get more clear, purge, purge, purge. Often what the remedy actually is more nourishment. We need nourishment. We need actual food. We need nourishing herbs. Oftentimes, when we've been on hormonal contraceptives or the copper IUD, we need help getting more minerals back into our body. We need supplementation for a period of time. I'm not a big supplement girly, but there are times and places when supplementation with the right supplements is really important. And then, I'm just thinking about like the insane gaslighting you went through. The insane gaslighting when you knew, hey, the fibroid moved when I removed this IUD. Do you think that has a connection? And the response was, no, IUDs are always great. Let's get another one. Like the level of insanity and like brainwashing, I can't wrap my head around at this moment in time. And like when you said that, I was speechless. I was just like in shock. Like, how can a medical provider see someone suffering in front of them? And I don't blame individual medical providers. I want to be really clear about this. Like, they actually don't know what they're doing in that respect. Like what you were saying, this is a big experiment, experimenting on women's bodies in this way, in the way that women's bodies have been experimented on for a very, very, very long time, predominantly the bodies of enslaved Black Africans in the South, predominantly the bodies of Indigenous women throughout the world, but especially on Turtle Island, the bodies of immigrant women, the bodies of poor women. Like, these are the women who have been experiencing this the longest. And then we, of course, see it filter into all of the other socioeconomic classes and races and all of that good stuff. But like, our bodies are not an experiment. Our bodies are not an experiment. Our bodies are so fucking sacred. Our bodies literally create life. Like, we create the next generation. And like, it's an intense thing to say, but one of my most profound ceremonies that I was ever in, I asked, what is all the suffering that I'm experiencing? And the suffering in my family and the suffering in my communities. And I just saw like all of these assaults on the womb from so many different avenues. And not just the assaults on women, because of course women have wombs, but also on men, because every man comes from a womb. And recognizing that if we want to get anything back into right relationship, we have to recenter this collective womb consciousness that is calling us forth to say, like, shit is bad and we're so much more intelligent than this. We are so much wiser than this. We are so much more resourced than this. We have so much ancestral intelligence that we can call forth. Like this amnesia that we're under, this like cloak of just numbness, like this isn't our truth. And we know that there's another way. There is liberation at our fingertips if we decide to just reach out and touch it. And so, so much of that interweaves into this class that I'm going to be teaching. Like, I hear stories like this, and I'm like, how do we prevent this? The biggest thing around it is like education. How do we educate our sisters? How do we come together and say, okay, like, we can do this together as women have been doing since the beginning of time, as is our birthright in community, in ceremony, in circle. This is how we get free by recentering the womb, by coming together, and by saying no more. We know there's another way. And that's where we're walking with joy, with liberation, with trust in our bodies, with freedom, with just so much juicy vitality that we're reclaiming step by step together. So that's what this class is going to be about. I'll let you speak a little bit and then I'll share a little bit more about the class.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for reflecting back. Yeah, it's nice to be, it's so important to be heard. And like I said before, Tamara's willingness to hear me, which I wasn't receiving through the medical system, was like, yeah, what really shifted things for me. It was like, oh, a woman is hearing me. This is huge. And for me, like the womb and the connection to the land, and this is like very clear in the history of IUDs, which really blew open my whole perspective. So I would like to share is like before IUDs, there was Bayer and Monsanto, and they are the people who spray herbicides and pesticides on all of our food. And before that, they were in Germany as just Bayer doing the Nazi thing and spraying, they were the gas providers for gas chambers. And before that, they were the dye company that created all of these polyurethanes and all the shit that we put on our body. So like it's tiers, it's layers and layers and layers of like first it's the clothes and then it's the air and then it's the food you eat, and now of course like they keep getting caught and they just keep splitting into another thing. And I mean, yeah, I have so much compassion for my surgeon because she's known me for a long time. She's a family friend. She loves me. And I saw the guilt in her eyes when I came out of surgery. I'm cracked out on drugs that they've given me for the pain. And she has the gall to say, I just want to encourage you to get another IUD. And I just knew, I was like, there's a camera. Somebody forced you to say that. Like, there's something beyond you in this space that you have to implement. And if I say yes, you have to put it in me because that's just how big pharma works. And it's so sad and it's so fucked up, but I also just have compassion for the women who are trying to do a good thing and are being so manipulated into doing this painful thing. And yeah, it just gives me compassion for all the sisters that I've lost and the friendships that I've lost with women because of all the finagling that we have to do. And then so much compassion for the men who are like, what the fuck is going on? Like my partner just being like, I don't know how to help. Like I don't know what's happening. Like you're going down and you're going down fast. Like what did they do to you? You know? And just compassion for the men who just want to protect and have been, that protection has been kind of stripped and like not knowing how to because of the way that, yeah. Also, grass fed butter. I love grass fed butter. That's what my body asked for when I was sick. Grass fed butter. It was like an ancestral download. of like, really butter? Like, no, nobody's like, that's like, that's like we all tried to get away from that, like margarine and like, it was like this call back to like grass-fed butter on a piece of toast. Don't get the gluten-free shit. That potato starch is gonna mess with your belly. And just like eat that. It's like, okay. So anyway, I just wanted to reflect back to you, but I'll let you finish. Thank you.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I'm a butter bitch too. I love butter. I put it on everything. I cook it with everything. And it makes sense too because it's like fat, animal fats is really incredibly important for so many different healing processes in the body, but especially inflammation. Like we're this weird anti-fat culture, but fat is actually one of the most important things that we need in our diet. So hell yeah to the grass-fed butter. And also, yeah, the grief around the fracturing of the woven web of women's wisdom and the ways in which I genuinely do feel that I think that women who are in the reproductive realms of health, OBGYNs, midwives, nurses, like they're doing what they think is right. They really do genuinely think like this is the best way that I can be of service, and I honor and respect the fact that they are trying to show up in service. And I'm also really praying that more and more and more as stories like this come out, there can be alarm bells going off to say, like, this is not actually how we come into sisterhood. This is not how I, as an elder, want to pass on teachings to the next generation of women. Like, the suffering is going to end with me. And that's like a whole other realm that, I'm not particularly responsible for. I feel what I'm personally responsible for is like who are the women, like lay women, who have their hormonal contraceptives or they have the IUD or they're in the current healing process from going off of it or getting it removed and don't have resources. That's what this class is all about. So the class that I'm teaching is called the Natural Birth Control Series. It is a 3-part class. It is going to be starting on October 5th. First class is going to be how to transition off of hormonal contraceptives and IUDs, everything that you need to support yourself with food, with herbs, with some supplementation, and then also the deep spiritual work that comes in as well. We're definitely going to be getting a little bit witchy with it for sure. Next class on October 12th will be all about biointuitive fertility tracking and learning how to observe your natural fertility signals, learning about your menstrual cycle, when your fertile window is, when you can actually get pregnant, when you can't, how to, track your bleed without using period apps, period tracking apps, and all that stuff. And then the third class on October 19th will be all about plants for pregnancy prevention. So, plants that help modulate your hormones, plants that help call on your bleed. They're called menagogues. And knowing like what the correct dosage is and when to use it and all of that good stuff, and also developing, your own relationship with these plants outside of an emergency situation, like being able to build a sentient relationship with these allies and with these teachers and with these ancestors to know, okay, like every month I can take a little drop dose of Queen Anne's lace around ovulation so that my body starts learning that Queen Anne's lace is a plant of sovereignty. It's a plant of reproductive sovereignty. It's a plant of liberation. Working with ginger around the time of your bleed, working with parsley around the time of your bleed. We're not going to go into like insane, crazy herbal protocols. This is like kitchen witch level, like beginner 101, nothing super intense or crazy. I really believe that every woman is capable of doing this kind of stuff. That's what this class is about. So that is all going to be available for $33. You will get access to the live classes. They'll be from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Zoom every Sunday. You will also get access, lifetime access to all the recordings, and then also lifetime access to a very long, extensive resource guide that I'll be sending you guys. So all of that will be in the show notes. I would love for you all to join. Thank you so much, Becca. Thank you, thank you, thank you, dear sister, for sharing your story, for walking the walk and not just talking the talk, but really embodying what it means to remember all of these innate ancestral teachings that we hold within ourselves, within our memory, our blood, our bone, our flesh, all of it. Like the fact that you were able to tap into it after such a state of profound dis-ease and illness and disorientation and disembodiment, like you're a walking testament to the fact that any woman can do this. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is so important.